The penny dropped, actually. It was a reason I signed up for your course, where I just suddenly thought, it shouldn't be this hard work to find flow. We are designed, like, watch a baby. They don't have to write affirmations and and like do like whatever. And there must be a way that my body can come back into presence and connection, that I don't have to keep taking it there over and over again for it just to get knocked out again. Why I was drawn to your work was that it's about meeting yourself in the moment where you are, with key tools that everybody can do, and there isn't a pushing into a certain shape. It's working with that in a connection. It's hard to explain, other than like all I can say is I feel freedom, like a freedom will just come in. Just when we were doing that posture there, and you were just giving a few cues, and just those two actions changed a posture I have done for years and years and never enjoyed and want to avoid because I find it so painful. All of a sudden, I just felt this softening into myself. And then my mind started to go into flow, into thinking of joyful things I wanted to do, rather than like, do this posture, get it right.
Let's just talk about that experience that you have of what it means to be connected and focused in a different way.
What I'm noticing is happening is I'll all of a sudden, so I'm obviously giving a lot of conscious awareness to the movement and the center line, and then all of a sudden something releases, and then there's this joyful presence and flow, and it's increasing and increasing now. The first few weeks were really hard because it was like my body was fighting all those sort of structural patterns that I've built up, and I'm noticing the difference in how I walked and the lightness. And then all of a sudden I started imagining myself playing tennis. I haven't played tennis for years. And because I could just suddenly imagine myself actually moving my body in a way that wouldn't go, oh. What's surprising for me is it's bringing in images and ideas of things I could do.
Nice.
Yeah, it's freeing up, because I've been quite a sportswoman in the past, and I was a dancer. And in recent years, for different reasons, I've not been able to do a lot of that. I suppose I had some sort of narrative that, oh, I'm getting older and those things are unavailable to me. And all of a sudden, I'm just like, well, no. As I move the energy, as the energy is moving, as I keep repeating these actions over and over again, and I just feel this presence. And then I notice that the old stories aren't as strong, the thought patterns aren't as strong. I'm a psychotherapist, and I work with people's story all the time. The story that they have in their head of their limitations and their beliefs. And the reason I was drawn to your work was because I know that those stories come from stuckness in the body. And so as I notice I'm unsticking my body through the practice of these, I'm getting so much more present. And like I say, this is a new thing that's coming in today. It was just like this images of things I could do, as opposed to like, oh, I can't do that anymore. The limitation piece.
So how is this different from what you already know, having come into the program?
So, for example, if we're focusing, trying to release this energy of fear, or this energy of panic, or this energy of grief, or how are we going to allow the body to keep releasing, moving towards that? You don't speak about that. You're speaking about helping a body to come back into balance and connection with itself, so that then when it feels present and safe enough, that may well happen. So it might come through as like huge heat. Mm. Or there was a class I did a couple of weeks with you where I felt really emotional. Mm. Just from a gentle, and you weren't talking about any trauma. You weren't talking about, you might connect your panic here or your fear. You were just giving some direction. And I understand enough about how releases can happen. And I know that for me, for people generally, releases happen when there's enough safety and presence in the body. Your work for me is about building that presence and safety over and over and over again, so that then anything that is ready to, the body can go, oh, well, we can get rid of that whole energy we've been holding in the right shoulder. What you can keep doing is come back to the 3 keys, or you can keep coming back to the sensing posture. You can keep coming back to these movements that you're providing, and keep coming back to that, here I am right now. I love the looking at the head key. For me, that's been I've realised how much I'm doing this, dropping the weight of that head coming down, And it's really exacerbated by phone use and driving and screen use. And once I do this and I look to the horizon, oh, everything opens. I did that with one client, just shifted that head key with her during a session. Whereas in the past, I would have gone with, oh, go with this movement, go with this feeling here, go with that. And instead I just said, let's just move the head and let's look into the horizon. Let's just bring in presence. And then she had a releasing in her shoulder. Instead of going towards the pain and the challenge in that moment. Yeah. I mean, I'm still very early in this journey. I think it's just been 6 weeks. So I'm having little experiences with clients, but it's mainly with myself at the moment.
So prior to doing this work, how did you help yourself find safety in the body?
Well, it would be a lot of very time consuming breath, lots of like, I'm okay. I do a lot of, I'm safe in my body. I'm safe in my body. And actually, I don't feel like I was like really feeling very safe. I mean, it was good because I was bringing in consciousness. So I was bringing in that moment of like, okay, I know that this isn't really happening. But so I'd be doing a lot of those ventral vagal regulation techniques that you see all over the place now. Just like a nice long breath out, but then I'd be straight back into the pattern. So they would give momentary connection regulation, but then they're not deep enough. There's some value, but it wasn't changing the underlying patterns in my system. It was literally like a band-aid in that way. And I was teaching that, and I had a whole course teaching people different ventral vagal regulation techniques. And I think it's given me enough capacity. But what I realized was I wasn't still changing my underlying anxiety, my panic feelings, the stories that would come up. And it felt like really hard work. That I had to like do my journaling, do my affirmations, all of those kind of things. I was saying to you in last week's class that the thing that I noticed last week was all of the plans that I can hold in my mind about all the things I want to do, etc., which are fundamentally a trauma response of busyness. I need to be busy all the time, make sure that I've got all these interesting and valuable things. They are dropping away. That in itself is like, and I'm a bit like, why would I want to do that? That's really exhausting. And yet that part of me that's been, and I think that culture that many of us are in, that busyness is actually this, it's lauded. It's like, how do you fill your time? How do you seem productive? It's a trauma response for me of actually this nervous system that doesn't feel safe enough to stop. I'm noticing since I've been doing the practice here, my energy is really changing.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Well, just like I was saying to you there, I came into the class. It's pretty hot here today, which for the UK it's a bit of a shock. I'm not very good in the heat. I had acupuncture, so I was having that whole kind of spacey, zoned out, midsummer, not sleeping so much. And I had a story of like, oh God, I don't want to go to class. It's going to be really hard work. We started doing that and I wasn't quite getting that exercise at the beginning. So I was going into like, am I good enough? Am I doing this well enough? And then just with your direction around that move, and I suddenly started to feel it. And I felt this energy move in my system around my hips. And now I feel brilliant. It's like 5 to 8 in the evening here. And normally I'd be like, oh God, winding down. And I'm feeling like an energy that, and I could imagining myself playing tennis and the dancing. I could go, oh, I'd love to go back to salsa. I could actually imagine myself doing a salsa class where I've been thinking, oh, my knees would hurt and I'm too old. I started working in my 20s as a community artist and theatre practitioner. I was using music and dance and to work with children, and I had great fun. When I went into schools, I'd be given the naughty kids, and I loved working with them so much. So I then trained as a play therapist. And so for me, play was this huge part of my life in terms of actually accessing that and understanding it then, the therapeutic aspect of play and how it's just what we're designed to do, and working with children who are so ready to go into that process. So I did that, and then I had my own children, and I started having my own therapy, and I had therapy in transactional analysis. In 1960s, a guy called Eric Byrne, he came out of the psychoanalyst movement, and he wanted to make therapy accessible to every person. So really his work is the first parts work. It's the first work that identified that we're not just this being moving through space. We're many parts according to what's happened to us and what happened to us when we were, particularly 0 to 7. I trained as a psychotherapist, and then I started to train in vagal theory, affective neuroscience, which is the brain circuitry, the emotional circuits, and addiction. And I just sort of boosted that in different ways. And so my work has always been this combination of the talk therapy, but with connection to, well, actually, this is what's going on in your body. And realizing most people are in some form of survival response. We're designed to be in a flow state with appropriate response to threat. Most people are caught in some sort of threat response. And so my practice has just grown more into lots of psychoeducation around how to bring in safety, which is in being enhanced now with, like I say, my mind's getting really blown by this work because I just like, how I want to keep bringing this more and more in. My work is around supporting people to feel really witnessed, to keep building capacity so they can start to move through these stuck primary emotions and to understand them for what they are, and to fundamentally build their own inner witness.